You come home after a road win like that, we should have a lot of crew love and the fans right there, so it'll be fun.
Why not for the Bucs?
Yeah.
They got weapons at the right spot.
He's a quarterback with an offensive lineman mentality. He'll make the yards when the game is on the line.
The moment is finally here. Let's go ahead and have a finish.
Coming after him, he got clobbered from behind. Blindsiding Fields.
Cousins is dead. The ball is out. And the Buccaneers have it.
All day. Keep going.
The ball toward the end zone toward Evans.
He makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Mike Evans.
Oh, it's picked off. Intercepted by Tampa Bay.
He snagged from behind. It's Shaq Barrett.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast live on YouTube today. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. Today, we are going to be talking about and reacting to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 2 victory at home against the Chicago Bears. 27-17, your final score in this game. And for the Buccaneers, facing off against the Bears team coming into this that we knew was probably going to give them a competitive game, they certainly created some distance here in the second half of this game. But for the Bucs, just another week in a row where on both sides of the ball, you come away from this thinking like, man, what more do you want to see? Obviously, there's some more stuff that we can break down in detail here, but first reaction to the game, I feel pretty good about what we just saw from Tampa Bay. Slow start, but again, incredible production on the offensive side of the ball, and even more turnovers this week, even though they were late in the game on the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about all that and more. But Evan, your thoughts on this victory for the Bucs as they emerge 2-0 now after these first two games of the season?
Yeah, I thought they played a solid game. They played better this week than they did last week, and that's what I was pretty much looking for. I don't think the offense is going to be perfect yet, and it wasn't. It was much better, obviously, especially to start. I mean, you take that first drive, and even though it ends in 3, a little bit of disappointment there that you couldn't cash in on a touchdown after such a long and successful drive does kind of suck. Left a little bit to be desired in the red zone, which could have made this game even more of a blowout, but there's things they got to work on, but at the same time, like, this offense showed a ton of progress from one week to another. So I do think there's a lot of positives there. The run game, I still thought it's a little bit of fool's gold because, like, to me, does not feel like they had as many rush yards as they did. I was pretty surprised to see that they had, let's see,
120 rushing yards,
I was trying to
317 through the air.
Yeah, 120 rushing yards doesn't feel like that. It just doesn't feel like they had that much of a productive day. They were running the ball a lot, which at times was a little frustrating. I thought they committed to the run a little bit too much at times, but and the defense I thought played well outside that first drive. First drive, I don't know what was really going on. They were just sort of marched down with ease, and you were thinking, oh boy, is this going to be sort of a higher scoring game than a lot of people expected? Like, both teams, I think a lot of people figured both offenses may struggle a bit in this game. Is this going to be sort of like one of those games where it's a little bit higher scoring, but the defense was able to buckle down pretty quickly and were able to come away with it? So, and then obviously, like you said, the turnovers coming later on, but had pressure. I think 6 or 7 sacks. So big days from a lot of the defensive line. And while, the Bears held them out sometimes, I think Justin Fields held onto the ball a little bit. Like, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm probably thinking like you might have a bust on your hands, like just looking at it. But regardless, the Bucs, like I said, they didn't play perfect, but 2-0. 2-0 is 2-0, and you're not going to take that away from them now.
437 total yards of offense for the Bucs. Again, 317 of those passing yards, 120 rushing yards, averaging 6.4 yards per play, 8 for 15 on third down, and 1 for 1 on their 1 fourth down attempt for the day. So Todd Bowles now undefeated on fourth down conversion attempts as head coach of Tampa Bay. Actually, let me not say that because I don't know if that's correct. 2022, they may have missed some. But Wanted to talk about the offense first and foremost. Baker Mayfield, the quarterback, 26 for 34, 317 yards and a touchdown. You talk about marginal improvement week to week with this young Buccaneers offense, and we certainly saw a big step in what they are capable of today. Now, that 70-yard that 70-yard gain from Mike Evans certainly helped pad these stats just a little bit. But this quote from Todd Bowles sums up everything we need to know about Baker Mayfield after 2 weeks in this Buccaneers system. We don't need Baker Mayfield to build the engine. We just need him to drive the car. And another week with no turnovers, no interceptions for Big Bake. And you got to like what you've seen from the guy. A lot of good decision-making out there today.
Yeah, I thought there was some good stuff. And, he missed a few throws, obviously. Second week in a row, he's missed a touchdown, missed that touchdown to Chris Godwin, but he made up for it with a few big throws. And I thought they worked the play action well. I thought he used his legs well. The Bucs didn't allow a sack today. And a lot of it, though, was because of Mayfield avoiding it. It wasn't because the Bucs offensive line played great. I think they played better last week than they did this week. But I think Mayfield really helped him because he was just being able to avoid those sacks, creating stuff with his legs. And it was a real bonus to the Buccaneers. So, I thought Mayfield again, did a great job. And the big thing is 0 turnovers again. He has 0 turnovers on the season now. He did get away with one. Probably should have been picked. The second pass of the game or whatever should have been picked. But it's important for this offense, I think, to limit the turnovers, especially a guy like Mayfield that has had issues in the past with turnovers. That I think it's encouraging that you're able to see him be able to move the ball consistently without turning the ball over and not be too risky and not push the ball downfield as much. Take what it gives you, right? Take what the defense gives you. And I think he did that a lot today.
Yeah, that opening drive in particular, a couple of almost turnovers from the Bucs to spike the old blood pressure. Of course, the Cody Mauch holding call as well. But again, they were able to come up with points. And in a game like that proves to be the difference at the end of the day. The slight overthrow from Baker to an open Chris Godwin in the end zone. That's the stuff that we've referred to in the past. And I feel like that's something obviously you're just going to see it, but I feel like you're going to see it for at least a few more weeks, right? Whether it's the chemistry, whether it's Baker feeling fully comfortable in the pocket, whatever the situation may be, it's going to take him a few more weeks to kind of dial in some of those throws. But even then, there's going to be certain throws this season that he tries to make that he's just not going to make because, well, he's not Tom Brady. It's as simple as that. That's the best way to put it for a lot of people comparing the quarterback play from this year to last year and some of the things that are going to be different. Obviously, some throws going to be off target, but luckily, that overthrow to Chris Godwin in the end zone didn't end up biting the Bucs later on in this game. Talking a little bit more about the offense, I wanted to talk about the run game before we talk about some of the top receivers. Rashad White, marginal improvement again for him this week. 17 carries for 73 yards, averaging 4.3 yards a tote. He also found the end zone this week. So, interestingly enough, we said this week on the preview show that we should expect a healthy dose of this run game early and often for the Bucs, right? And that's exactly what we saw. I think the first 30 plays of the game, more than half of them were runs. I think it was 17 rushing attempts to just 10 passing attempts or 11 passing attempts at some point in the game right before that 30-play mark. You said that it didn't feel as if they were as productive as they were. And again, 120 yards in the box score does not lie. Rashad White, 73 yards on 17 carries. Baker Mayfield, 17 yards on 16 carries. Maybe that's why it doesn't feel like 120 yards. Chase Edmonds, 12 yards on 2 carries. Devin Tompkins on the end around had 11 yards. And Sean Tucker, only 7 yards on 8 carries. So interesting there. But another week in a row where not only have the Bucs shown that they can control the clock by running the football and they can get over 100 yards on the ground, but Rashad White showed us improvement. The running game improved from where it was last week, but I kind of get what you mean and how it feels like it was a little anticlimactic this week. Do you think that's just a testament to how well the offense played altogether, or is it just the situational the situational circumstances of how these running backs were used?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if we're ever going to see Tampa be a good running football team. I just don't know if they have the personnel for it, but it can be better, and it has been better so far than it was last year. So like, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement, but I also think that it's been better. Now, this week, it was better than last week. So you're hoping next week's going to be a little bit tougher because I think, Philly's front seven is much better than Chicago's or Minnesota's. But I do think it is good progress to see. And just like I've been saying, like, I don't think this is going to happen overnight. Like, this Bucs run game was so bad last year that the turnaround is not going to happen like that. Like, it's not going to happen.
The turnaround they've already made is pretty remarkable considering, like you said, just how historically bad they were last season.
Yeah, like there's a lot of mess to clean up there. Like there is a lot. So, you weren't great last week. Did the job though. And you were better this week. That's all you can ask for, I think. And I do think some of the runs were a bit in predictable spots, trying to run the clock out. I don't necessarily agree. I thought they should have been a little bit more aggressive with some of those runs. Maybe turn them into passes instead when you're trying to run the clock out. I think Chicago was just stacking the box so much. And they're down a couple of guys in the secondary and really wanted you to run the ball, and you weren't really giving it to them. So it's... To me, I would have personally just rather run the ball a little bit less, but like I didn't have a huge issue with it.
I've seen this mentioned in the chat. I wanted to ask you about it. Rashad White being your lead back for the second week in a row. We saw that hesitancy in his run game sneak in again, where he kind of waits a second, evaluates his blocks. A lot of people are always going to compare it to Le'Veon Bell. Anytime I hear any running back ever who takes a second to evaluate behind the line of scrimmage, they call it, or they compare it to Le'Veon Bell. But we saw it another week in a row from Rashad White. And while I was just praising him for improving his numbers this week, which he definitely did do, and I like the improvement that we saw, is this hesitancy to run the ball sometimes, do you think it is just a lack of experience, or do you think that's just kind of how he runs the football?
I think it's probably just how he runs. I just think it's how his style is. I think that's just how he feels comfortable. I think it can be good and can be bad, obviously. I think it can be bad because sometimes, it's better if you just go and hit the hole, right? Immediately, just go, but other times it's better to be patient because those holes in those lanes can open if you're patient enough. But I thought it was a little bit better today. I didn't think it was as obvious today as it was in Minnesota, where I was like, man, like he just barely moving, like move your feet, man. And so I did think it was a little bit better today. And also, just saying, betting the Bucs, said he was going to get over 17.5 receiving yards, 5 catches for 30 yards. So just saying, DJ Moore over 44.5 receiving yards, basically got that on the first drive. So,
yeah, no kidding.
And Bucs minus 2.5, and Shaq Barrett with a sack. So not too shabby for betting the Bucs, but
I'm a little sour that my O'Keefe anytime touchdown didn't hit today, but that's all right.
He didn't even get a target today.
Yeah, he really didn't, which I was surprised. I mean, we can't be too upset because the overall effectiveness of this offense is still kind of insane. Like I did not think coming into this game, even best case scenario, the Bucs were going to come out of this with over 400 yards of total offense. I mean, this is an anomaly even in comparison to last year's roster.
Still makes it a little bit disappointing that you only get 20 points out of it, but
true.
I mean, obviously they left some points there. Like I said, Mayfield misses Godwin on a touchdown. You settle for 3. That's 4 extra points right there. You get the field goal blocked. That's a whole 7 points, right? So you left 7 points out there. So yeah, you didn't play a perfect game, and that's not including any of the other ones where you settle for field goals instead. So they got to get better at that for sure. It's the second week in a row scoring 20. You're not going to be able to beat, some of the other teams you got on your schedule just scoring 20. But again, the offense, just like you said, may not have showed up on the scoreboard, but it showed up on the box score, and 2, when you watch the game. Like, the Bucs offense was moving the ball like almost at will at times. They sort of slowed down towards the end, got a little bit too like I said, I just think they got a little bit too conservative towards the end of the game. I think after like the 10-minute mark in the fourth quarter, it felt like a little bit too conservative for me. But when they wanted to move the ball, they were able to. They were efficient on third down. Mayfield was really good on third down today. They converted the 1 4th down, and they got the job done. So again, with this offense, that's what you can ask for right now, and I think they're accomplishing that. And a big thing again is 0 turnovers. Like that's always going to be massive. Second week in a row, the Buccaneers win the turnover battle.
Second week in a row, the Bucs have absolutely dominated the time of possession as well. 35-56 for the Bucs, only 24-04 for Chicago. And I know we talked about the room for improvement left in this Buccaneers run game, but one of the things that they have done well this week in particular is just allow the Bucs to hang on to the football. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, the Bucs have absolutely milked the clock for all that it's worth. And, despite a couple of late game turnovers, they were able to kind of burn this one away yet again today, which you really do like to see. That late game execution is going to take you a very long way. Let's talk about the receivers, man. It's about time. Your leading receiver, who else? Big number 13, 6 catches, 171 yards for one Michael Lynn Evans. He also found the end zone and got a touchdown for Tampa Bay, averaging 28.5 yards a catch. Now, if you take away that 170-yard reception, Mike Evans still had 101 yards on the day through 5 catches. So safe to say you like this early season production from Mike Evans, because this time last year, we were wondering where the hell he was at. We weren't sure where his chemistry with Tom Brady was. We weren't sure if he was happy with the team or whatever was going on. We know a little bit more about his business between him and the team this season, but his production so far through these first 2 games is pretty damn good. Almost a quarter of the way there for 1,000 yards on the season through these first 2 contests. I really like what we saw from Mike Evans today.
And you know who else really likes it? Mike Evans' agent.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He made a lot of plays. Did get away with a push-off.
Created some space on that 70-yard reception, if I do say so myself. Kind of got away with one on there.
Did get away with it, but hey, if they don't call it, whatever. But then obviously, had the nice touchdown, had the really nice catch where I thought Mayfield was basically throwing it away.
Yeah.
Evans leaps up for it, makes a move, and gets about 10 yards or so after the catch. A really, really nice move there. But yeah, I thought he's looked great, and I thought the chemistry between he and Mayfield. I was gonna say him and Mayfield. Words are hard, just like you say. But it's shown off in the early going here in this season. So hopefully it can continue. 6 for 171 and a touchdown is pretty ideal for Mike Evans. So is that sustainable every week? 171 yards, probably not. But like 6 catches, 7 catches, I think that should be the goal for Mike Evans. Every week, sometimes even more. So I do think that they're feeding him the ball plenty, and Mayfield's finding him. So that's really good.
Another productive week for Chris Godwin. He extends his streak, the longest active streak in the NFL for a player. For games in a row with at least 5 receptions. Chris Godwin, another game today, 5 receptions, 58 yards, no touchdown, but he'll find the end zone here soon. Definitely like what I've seen between Chris Godwin and Baker Mayfield. I said before the season that, honestly, I think even more so than Mike Evans, Chris Godwin is going to quickly become a favorite target for Baker Mayfield because he's good at the dirty work. He's good at the underneath routes. He's good at a screen pass. He's just a good physical receiver who's going to make that play. And we saw him reach out for that little bit extra and make that play late in the game, week 1 against Minnesota, but another solid performance today. Cade Otton, 6 catches for 41 yards. Rashad White, 5 catches for 30. Trey Palmer, 1 catch for 20 yards, which was one hell of a play, by the way. Big play, Trey Palmer. Raheem Jarrett got his first NFL catch today for 7 yards. And David Wells, the tight end, 2 catches for negative 10 yards. The tight end usage today definitely was a weak point if we're, highlighting weak points to nitpick about on this Buccaneers offense. There was literally less than 0 production from the tight end room today.
You just mentioned Cade Otton with 6 catches and 41 yards.
I'm sorry. Well, David Wells. David Wells.
David Wells that's skewed because the fumble yards.
You're right.
That's why he has minus 10. Because he caught the ball, but then the ball went backward. So, Yeah, like I thought everybody contributed. I mean, Raheem Jarrett getting his first career catch, Trey Palmer having a big play. I personally think that they sort of went away from Chris Godwin when they shouldn't have. I think in the second half should have gotten him a bit more involved. He was involved early in the game. I thought he should have been a bit more involved as this game wore on. I just think he can do so much more in this offense, but it is what it is. I'm sure he'll get his. Like, I'm not worried about it, but would have liked to seen Chris Godwin involved a little bit more. But I mean, yeah, 6-5, 6-5, and then 1-1-2. Like you're spreading the ball around enough. You got 4 different guys with at least 5 receptions, and I think that's good because you're using your playmakers as well, and you gave the ball to Rashad White a few times in open space and had him do some work. And Cade Otton's sort of a check down type of guy that made some plays, converted some first downs, and Mike Evans obviously the big plays. Chris Godwin more of a chain mover type, but yeah, like I said, these guys are learning a brand new offense as well. So it's all a process right now, and I think they're processing it very well.
Just a reminder, the phones are on for this post-game episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. 305-224-1968 is the number to call, and the meeting ID is right there on your screen. Give us a call, your thoughts on Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers offense. But until then, let's talk about the other side of the football. The offense played a very well-rounded game, very productive. You got to like what they have seen. Just about the same on the other side of the football. I know we talked about the gripes on the opening drive, zone coverage, giving up a lot of chunk plays to DJ Moore, but they clamped down after that. And I thought this was going to be a game where you felt the absence of a guy like Carlton Davis more than you did. Ultimately ended up losing Jamel Dean throughout the course of this one, but the defense that still finished with 2 interceptions on the day and a boatload of sacks. So for what it's worth, holding Chicago to only 260-something yards, while pretty much on the other side of the ball producing almost twice that. It's another week in a row where you feel pretty damn good about what the defense put on the field.
Yeah, and I was sort of surprised that I don't know what the Bears' offense is. Like, the Bears' offense is brutal to watch. Like, I mean, Khalil Herbert averaged 5 yards a carry, 7 carries for 35 yards. Like, I don't understand why they didn't run the ball more. The game was never that out of reach. Like, it wasn't a 10-point game until it was 20-10. Like, it was still a close game the whole time. I'm not sure why they decided to go away from the run game, but the Buccaneers, yeah, they clamped down. I mean, Fields 16 completions for 29 yards, 211 yards passing. I mean, they were able to limit him on the ground. 4 attempts for 3 yards. Like, don't ask me why the Bears are only running him 4 times. Like, I think you should play to his strength and run him more. But 4 attempts for 3 yards. I mean, that is just pretty remarkable to be able to hold a guy like Justin Fields, who can beat you with his legs and is so dangerous with his legs. To be able to beat you like that, I think is massive.
And if the Bears were a team that were losing by 14 the whole game, then I could understand it. But no, this was a 1-score game until those back-to-back turnovers in the fourth quarter. It was pretty close. Like, the Bucs had them.
Yeah.
They took a couple of 2-possession leads, but the Bears kept it a game until the last 5 minutes. And like you said, it doesn't really do enough to justify the lack of running back use, especially from a guy as productive as they had today.
Yeah, of course. And we have a $2 super chat from not sure who that is, but it is nice. Appreciate the $2, by the way, of course. Go check out the channel. It's a pretty nice channel, I think. Pretty cool channel. But and then the defense just, you're not going to get constant pressure for every single snap of every single game, but they're just, smothering him, making Fields uncomfortable, making him not be able to step up in the pocket. Thought Vita Vea was great today. Shaq Barrett, I think was good. Obviously, the pick 6 was a great play. As far as rushing the passer goes,
earlier in the game too.
Yeah, I thought he was good. Then Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I thought was really good today as well. Had that one great jump on the sack. Really, I thought the defensive line played well. Linebackers were a little bit quiet. Levante David made that one play on the 3rd down. Other than that, I thought Devin White had a pretty quiet game. But the one thing I wanted to get at when you said about Carlton Davis being out, and I think it's a testament to Zion McCollum, and Christian Izien, who was questionable to play. There was no guarantee that Christian Izien was going to play. He was in the concussion protocol, was able to suit up and go. Also got his second interception in as many career games, so pretty cool for Izien there. But I just think it speaks to how they played. They played pretty good, and they stepped up to the challenge with Carlton Davis out. Jamel Dean went down for a little bit, and they didn't get exposed. So I think it's huge for guys like that, younger guys like Izien and McCollum, to be able to step up when the defense needs them, and that's exactly what they did.
A sack for Cam Gill, half a sack for Yaya Diaby, 1 sack on the day for Shaq Barrett, a sack and a half for Vita Vea, and then 2 sacks, as we had just mentioned, for outside linebacker Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. A total of 5 sacks today for the Buccaneers defense. This defense has been very productive over the first 2 weeks of football. Now, I know we talked about the Vikings proving to not be a very strong team after their first 2 showings, and the Bears probably not a very good team in the long run either. But you got to like this production. I mean, this is a team that, while it's a defense that has been good before, I don't know if they have ever been this good in back-to-back weeks at just forcing turnovers, forcing mistakes. And we could probably call them garbage time turnovers today. The Shaq Barrett pick six, the Christian Izien interception.
Well, the Barrett pick six, maybe not. That's a critical point. The Izien one, that's garbage time, but it still counts. It's still going to count on the stat sheet.
Yeah, and that's the type of stuff from this defense that I think you were missing before, with an offense that just wasn't good. And this offense, I think, has proven to me over the first 2 weeks that they're on pace to be a lot better than where we were this time last year, for sure. But when you have a defense that has scoring ability, I mean, when you have a defense in the NFL that at any given moment could take the ball away and you're confident in trusting that defense, the move today where the Bucs decided on 4th and 1 to just kick it away late in the game and trust their defense, it paid off. Todd Bowles put his trust into the defense. Shaq Barrett gets a pick six, calls game. That's it. That's exactly what the Bucs needed in that moment, and their defense came up huge. And I don't know if they're going to get that much credit in the long run for it, but they absolutely should today. Chase McLaughlin had that one kick that was blocked, so can't.
I'm never going to blame the kicker.
Yeah, but he made all of his other kicks today, so can't be mad at him there, right? 2 for 3, his longest from 26.
Yeah, I mean, it is, you didn't really get your checklist wish. You wanted him to kick a longer kick, but hey, if they're all short like that, who cares? But yeah, I thought he was good. And then Jake Camarda, obviously. Jake Camarda with the first punt he had was just a boomer. I mean, it didn't bounce and then go into the end zone. It bounced inside the end zone, and that's how far he kicked it. And then obviously the one right before the Shaq Barrett pick six, where he was pinned down in there inside the 10. That's exactly what you're looking for from your punter. Exactly what you're looking for in that situation. So great job by Jake Camarda. He's really, I think, turning into, and not many people are talking about it, I think he's turning into one of the better punters in the NFL. It's just being able to locate kicks, kick it with power as well, create situations for your defense where they're going to stuff the offense back there. I think Jake Camarda has been really, really good. So, yeah, special teams, though, was pretty big. Besides that block kick, you can't really have any complaints on special teams there.
Yeah, he's got a really good feel for the game. And again, you mentioned that absolute cannon of a leg that he has. Excited to see what he can do in the future. But realistically, the Bucs played so well today. It always happens like this on the podcast. The Bucs played so well today that I feel like we just don't have that much to talk about. We could obviously nitpick, and I'm sure that between now and our next episode, we're going to find some more things to break down and some things the Bucs can improve moving forward. But when you look at their performance today, tackling is something that I think definitely needs to be improved moving forward. This Todd Bowles defense, they're good at blitzing.
I think they blitzed, and I actually think they started to find success against the Bears offense because they blitzed less.
Yeah.
As the game went on, that first drive, there was 2 big plays on blitzes. I think Justin Fields was really getting the ball out quick on them blitzes, and it burned them. So, and Mikey's asking in the chat, yes, Chase Edmonds did get hurt. He did not come back in the game. I believe it was a knee injury, so don't know about his status or anything. Jamel Dean also said he just had the wind knocked out of him. So Jamel Dean's fine. But yeah, Chase Edmonds got hurt during the game, did not return. So we'll see about his status for this coming week. Obviously, the Bucs have an extra day to rest up. So we'll see what status Chase Edmonds is, but yeah, it's yeah, I sort of got the point, but
I mean, certain situations, like I was saying, there's certain situations where it does feel tackling has to be better. Like it's been a bend but don't break defense, and if you can give up 7 yards but make the tackle, then that's great. But if you give up 7 yards and then give up 6 more yards after the catch that result in the first down, that's the type of stuff that's going to prevent you from getting off of the field, and we did see that a little bit today. But obviously that's something that's going to get cleaned up over the course of the season because these teams are just going to get better, hopefully, as more games continue to be played. Let's check in on the live chat really quickly. G Vegas and Willie Beeman, the moderator, holding it down. Says tackling is always going to be an issue with the soft NFL regulated practice. G Vegas says they need to tackle much better next Monday. And Gedeke has to play almost a perfect game as well. Penalties and not blocking very well. What did you make of Luke Gedeke today? Because he did get his name called, and I don't want to say it's another week in a row where he struggled because we talked about how Baker didn't get sacked at all today, but I definitely think he was having a hard time out there at some moments.
Yeah, I mean, Baker didn't get sacked at all, but like I said, I think he didn't get sacked sometimes because he was avoiding them. He did a pretty good job at avoiding some of them. So I don't believe the offensive line played as good as they did last week. And I thought Gedeke was okay. I just thought the whole offensive line was just okay. They opened up some lanes. I'll never understand. None of their bootlegs work because a bootleg is supposed to draw in the defender and give the quarterback time. The defender's always right in Mayfield's face.
Exactly. No, I was going to say the same thing. Every time he rolls out on a play action bootleg or a play action rollout, it always seems like that linebacker who's either playing the spy or just playing that zone or whatever comes down and he's right there. And Baker's either just got to hang on and try and run it or get rid of the ball incredibly quick. But I agree with you. I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But, yeah, like I said, I thought the offensive line played okay. They got to play much better. I think they know that. And because, like I said, there was some pressures that the Bears had that Mayfield was just able to avoid and either avoid the sack and rush or avoid the sack and just get rid of the football. So I do think they have to be better. But again, it's just like we talked about last weekend on the game preview. It's a group that is playing together for the first time, and they have 8 quarters under their belt, like 8 quarters of football under their belt of fully playing together. So I'm willing to give them a bit more time as well. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Buck Gedeke was fine. Cody Mount got called for a penalty a little bit earlier in the game. Tristan Wirfs got called for a penalty. But like I said, they got the job done. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. It wasn't pretty. Specifically on the offensive line, but they were able to do the job. The run game, they were able to open up better holes in the run game to find lanes for Rashad White to go in. And I just think it paid off because you're able to find that balance. Yes, the play action can work when you don't have a run game, but when the run game is successful, the play action worked even better. So I do think that helps a lot as well.
I think it's another week in a row where on the offensive side of the ball, we saw the blueprint come to fruition for the Bucs and how they want to run this offense. We talked about that magical number for passing attempts for Baker. Let's just say 35 for the sake of this example. Right around 30 to 35 passing attempts a game seems like the most they want to give Baker. He only gets 34 this week, making the most of it. 26 for 34, 317 yards and a touchdown. But if you can get over 100 yards on the ground, control the time of possession, and Baker doesn't have to throw the ball more than 30 times, that's all they want to accomplish week in and week out. With the defense playing as well as they have, I do think the points that were left on the field today, the overthrow to Chris Godwin in the end zone where you got to settle for 3 points, a couple of other examples like that, against better teams, absolutely that's going to bite you. But so far it hasn't. And I think the blueprint that the Bucs want this offense to be so far with the defense playing as well as it has, it's proving to be a winning formula. Again, yet to see if it's going to beat those better teams left on the schedule that we have talked about. But so far with what we have seen, I think Bucs fans, Bucs players, and Bucs coaches have to at least feel pretty good about what they have established over these first 2 weeks here.
Yeah, and Mayfield's averaging 34 throws a game because he had 34 last week. So the exact same total number of throws. He was 21 of 34 last week, and then 26 of 34 this week. So 5 more completions, obviously a lot more yards. Last week, he only had 173 yards through the air. This time, 317. So a lot more yards, which is good to see. It does help with the Mike Evans thing. Some of the yak, that inflates the numbers a little bit. Not necessarily true air yards there. It's not 317 yards in the true air, but it's always a weird stat to me why do quarterbacks, if it's a 99-yard touchdown, they get 99 yards?
Right.
Like, why do you get 99
threw it
passing
7 yards out of those?
Yeah, like no wonder people are like, oh, can a quarterback pass for 6,000 yards or whatever? It's because of stuff like that. That's why. But yeah, I mean, I think in an ideal world, they want to have Baker down under 30, but 34, it got the job done. I don't think you want to see them approach. I don't think they want to either. 40, but there will probably be a game this season where they have to. There will be a game this season where the defense is not gonna play great, and they're gonna need points, and they're gonna need points quickly, and they're gonna be down a lot of the game, and then Baker Mayfield is just gonna have to throw the ball. So there will be times this season, but I think in an ideal world, like you said, they sort of are looking for that 25 to 30 range, maybe a little bit over 30, 34, and being able to run the football. And sometimes it can be boring. Sometimes it can be frustrating with how, conservative it can be or whatever. But, it's worked so far. The offense is averaging 20 points as well, 20 points in both games for the offense. Again, just like you said, against better teams might not fly. Against better teams, the missed opportunities might not fly. Missing Keats on a wide open touchdown, missing Chris Godwin, having to block field goal. Stuff like that is not going to fly against the better teams, but against teams like Chicago and Minnesota, you can squeak it out, and then you just got to hope you learn from it and be able to get better at it. So that's what I think the hope is here.
Yeah, we haven't had to see this Bucs offense play in panic mode yet either. They have not been in a situation where they're down 10-plus points in the third quarter and they have to completely abandon the run game and start getting creative in the pass. We haven't seen them do that, luckily, but there is going to be some point in the season where we do, and the question is also going to become, what kind of offense do they look like under pressure when they're playing stressed out, when there's a lot more going on, when the speed of the game has been amped up a little bit and you don't absolutely own the time of possession battle and you're losing the turnover battle? What are they going to look like in that stress situation? And that's when we're going to see hopefully the best of Dave Canales, and he's going to be put through the ringer as an offensive coordinator. But again, some more stuff that'll be exciting to see as it happens. But final thoughts for this game. Evan, not a lot of calls today. If you want a chance to get a last-minute call for this week's post-game show, 305-224-1968 is the number to call. The meeting ID this week is 747-973-0150. Evan, thoughts moving forward as the Bucs have an extra day of rest to get ready for the defending NFC champions on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, 2-0 is 2-0. And I would say, I appreciate 2-0, right? Be happy that they're 2-0. At the same time, it doesn't mean that, this whole season is going to be sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be
2-0.
Yeah, 2018. The 2018 Bucs started off 2-0, finished the year 5-11. It happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen with this team, but it can happen. We always talk about, there's ebbs and flows to a season. It's like a roller coaster. There's going to be ups. Right now, there's an up. There's going to be some downs. So hopefully they can come out and compete against Philly. We'll see. I don't know. I know Philly's got some injuries. Not sure the status of some of those guys. Maybe you squeak one out. And I think that would be a game where really you turn a lot of heads. You're able to win that game, especially on prime time. But I mean, like I said, 2-0 is 2-0, and there's a lot of teams in this league right now that are 0-2, and I don't think a lot of people expected the Bucs to be 2-0. You and I didn't expect the Bucs to be 2-0, so it is a good thing, and it's a positive thing, and hopefully you can keep building that positive momentum towards winning more games consistently, and then making a run for the playoffs.
Yeah, and then moving forward, these 2 wins to start the season, it guarantees you're at least 2-2 headed into the bye week. We talked on our season prediction show about how a lot of people had the Bucs going 1-3 if we were being realistic with the strength of the schedule over these first 4 games. The Vikings proven to kind of be some bums. The Bears are exactly who we thought they were going to be. So for the Bucs, you got to feel pretty good about it. Now, again, they're not going to feel great about dropping these next 2 games. Not saying that that's going to happen, but if that does happen, you're still looking
at the grand scheme of things. 2-2 is not there,
right? And with the level of talent they were going to be going up against over the first month, I think 2-2 is a solid start because you and I both had them going 1-3. And listen, if you win one more game over these next 2 weeks, then you subvert the expectations that much more, which gets people that much more excited, get your players that much more bought in, and we can get even more excited about what the Bucs are building here in Tampa Bay. But 27-17, your final score as the Buccaneers win their home opener against the Chicago Bears, an old NFC Central opponent. The next time we see the Bucs play the NFC Central, we'll be coming out of the bye week. It'll be the return of the Creamsicle, week 6. So that's going to be exciting. Next week, again, we had mentioned they have an extra day of rest. Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then a week after that, they close out before the bye week, taking on the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't seem to have any calls today, so I believe that's just about going to do it for this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. We will talk to you guys early on this week to give you some more thoughts on the game. Maybe we'll be joined by a special guest. Who knows? But thank you so much for checking us out live here on YouTube today. Subscribe for more Tampa Bay Buccaneers content if you haven't. And make sure to find the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And, of course, check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What do you got coming up this week?
Obviously the game reactions that I do, which is basically just looking at Twitter, and not necessarily like reactions from players or anything, but sort of getting a pulse for what the Twitterverse thinks, or Xverse, I guess I could say, thinks of the game. National media thinks of the game, stuff like that, and just like overall thoughts from like what people are saying on social media. So have that out within the next day or so, and then obviously starting next week going to be looking at the Q&A again for the Eagles. So I believe it's Bleeding Green Nation is the Eagles SB Nation site, so hopefully going to be getting Davy Jones Locker Q&A up there, so go over to BucsNation.com and check that out.
Absolutely hate that Xverse comment. It will always be Twitter to me, which means you can follow me on Twitter at Redicus. If you follow me, I will follow you back. You can also find me on Instagram. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. Thank you again for listening. We will talk to you later this week with more Tampa Bay Buccaneers content. Happy Victory Monday to those of you who celebrate, and we will talk to you soon. We'll talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.